Osun is now just days away from one of the most closely watched governorship elections in Nigeria. But tonight, the biggest concern is no longer just who will win, it is whether voters will be able to cast their ballots without fear. A civil society group monitoring the state says dozens of election-related violent incidents have been recorded since October last year, with lives lost on multiple sites. A sitting senator has just been questioned by police over a video accusing him of ordering his supporters to kill. Two human rights organizations are now demanding his arrest, and Saturday's ballot papers are being reprinted at the last minute after a court order changed who's even on them. Stay with me because there are several developments here you need to understand before Saturday, and some of the numbers you'll hear reported don't actually agree with each other. If you are new to the Policy Pulse HQ, subscribe now. This channel follows the power, the politics, and the money behind Nigeria's biggest stories, and we don't stop at the headline. Like this video, and let's get into what is actually happening in Osun. Osun State votes for governor on Saturday, August 15, 2026. Incumbent Governor Ademola Adeleke of the Accord Party is seeking re-election. He first won the seat in 2022, defeating then APC incumbent Oyebamiji. His main challenger is Munirudeen Oyebamiji of the APC, known as AMBO, currently Managing Director of the National Inland Waterways Authority, running with a vice presidential candidate identified in campaign material as Kayode. A third major candidate, Najim Salam, represents the ADC and has drawn support from figures including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Osun State Governor Ralph Aregbesola. A fourth party, the SDP, was added to the ballot only this week after a court order, a detail we'll come back to, because it has forced INEC to physically reprint the ballot papers days before the vote. This matters nationally because Osun is a state the APC lost in 2022, and multiple APC-aligned figures have publicly tied this specific race to the party's positioning ahead of the 2027 presidential election, meaning both national and local political weight rides on Saturday's result. Here is where we need to be careful, because you may see different numbers reported for the same story, and it's worth understanding why. The Kimpact Development Initiative, a civil society organization monitoring the election, said in a report roughly a week ago that it had documented 44 election-related violent incidents across Osun State between October 2025 and June 2026, resulting in 13 deaths. Its executive director, Bukola Ido, said 26 of those 44 incidents, nearly 60%, occurred in just May and June alone, describing the trend as a warning sign requiring urgent action. But reporting from today, August 13th, citing what's described as KDI's latest report, gives a different, higher figure. No fewer than 73 election-related violent incidents, leading to 29 deaths, with Osogbo, the state capital, identified as the worst-hit area. We could not independently determine from available reporting whether the jump from 44 to 73 incidents reflects a genuine escalation in July and August, which is plausible given the timing right before the election, or a discrepancy in how the same underlying data was reported by different outlets. Both figures are attributed to the same organization. Until KDI's full methodology and dated report are directly reviewed, both numbers should be treated as real but not fully reconciled with each other. Layered on top of KDI's figures are the party's own higher and conflicting claims. The Accord Party, in a formal letter to the European Union and ECOWAS dated August 12, alleged at least 29 deaths and numerous gunshot injuries, matching KDI's higher figure, while separately claiming more than 60 Accord members and supporters had been arrested and detained in Abuja and Nasarawa State, a claim that has not been independently verified. The APC and Accord jointly told Vanguard in figures reported about 4 days ago that a combined 18 of their members had been killed, the APC citing 10 deaths, Accord citing 8.
Separately, Senator Fadahunsi has alleged more than 30, and in one interview, more than 40 deaths, specifically in Osun East over the past year, accusing Governor Adeleke of, in his words, having created terrorism in the area. Every side in this story, the monitoring group, the Accord Party, the APC, and Fadahunsi personally, has produced a different figure, ranging from 13 to more than 40 deaths. We are not going to tell you which one is correct, because based on what's publicly available, we cannot verify that ourselves. What is confirmed consistently across every source, real people have died in incidents connected to this campaign in multiple parts of the state over multiple months. That much is not in dispute.
Whatever the precise number, election-related violence at this scale carries specific, serious risks beyond the immediate victims. It can intimidate voters away from polling units entirely. CISLAC's executive director, Awal Musa Rafsanjani, said directly that the pattern of incidents pointed to an increasingly violent electoral environment capable of frightening voters away from polling units. It can be used to justify heavy security deployment that some groups worry tips into what one report called militarization of the process. It puts party agents, election officials, and observers at risk during the actual voting and counting. And even where voting itself proceeds without incident, a campaign period marked by documented violence can undermine public confidence in the result regardless of who wins. Governor Adeleke's most significant recent public intervention came at an emergency press briefing in Osogbo on Tuesday, August 11th, where he demanded the arrest of Senator Fadahunsi over the viral video, describing the senator's remarks as, in his words, going beyond politics into a national security threat. He said he had personally raised the matter with police leadership. He separately alleged that a police signal had been issued directing the arrest of Accord Party leaders across the state, with instructions that those arrested be taken to Abuja and held until after the election, calling this, if confirmed, an attempt to use police to help the APC rig the vote. This specific allegation of a police signal has not been independently confirmed by police. Adeleke also declared the day before the election a work-free day in the state, according to one report, a routine step ahead of Nigerian elections rather than a new development specific to this controversy. APC's most direct public counter came through Senator Fadahunsi himself, who, after being questioned by police, accused Governor Adeleke of creating what he called terrorism in Osun East to destabilize the APC's stronghold there and suppress turnout. Fadahunsi cited specific incidents to support his account. A local government administration crisis, he said, left 4 dead and 16 wounded. Violence in Esaoke in April 2025, he said, claimed 4 lives and injured 12, and an allegation that 4 of his constituents were killed by members of the Amotekun Corps in Akinlalu, with 6 others critically wounded. None of these specific figures have been independently verified in the reporting reviewed for this script. Separately, the PDP, not directly an APC voice but relevant context, issued a statement through its National Publicity Secretary describing the viral video attributed to Fadahunsi as uncivilized, warlike, and unacceptable in a democratic setting, indicating the criticism wasn't confined to Accord-aligned voices alone.
A video began circulating August 11 showing Senator Francis Fadahunsi, representing Osun East, addressing APC supporters in Ilesa, speaking in Yoruba, in remarks translated and shared publicly by Afrobeat star Davido, Governor Adeleke's nephew. This is important and worth stating plainly. Different reports of the same video give meaningfully different translations of what Fadahunsi actually said. One version, which Fadahunsi himself does not dispute saying, goes, "I told them this shows that they are weak and cannot win. They should shut them down by their votes. They should kill them by their votes." Fadahunsi says this is a metaphor about electoral defeat, not violence. A second, more serious version, cited by the National Human Rights Commission's translation of the same video, quotes him saying, "From now on, whenever you see Accord members, kill them. I authorize you to kill them. They have wives and children too. This is a federal government election. On election day, even if they come with voter cards, we won't allow them to vote." These are not the same statement. We do not have independent access to the full unedited video to determine which translation is accurate or whether both capture different parts of a longer speech. This is exactly the kind of discrepancy that should be resolved by an actual forensic review of the full footage, not by this channel and not by picking whichever version sounds more dramatic. The Osun State Police Command confirmed it questioned Fadahunsi in Osogbo. Police spokesperson Abiodun Ojelabi stated the invitation was a proactive measure aimed at lowering political tension, not a formal arrest. Fadahunsi was subsequently released, according to Punch's reporting. The National Human Rights Commission, through Executive Secretary Tony Ojukwu, formally called for Fadahunsi's immediate suspension by the Senate and his arrest by police and the DSS, describing the remarks as incitement to murder, electoral violence, and voter intimidation, and stating this is not politics, this is a license to kill. Amnesty International separately posted a statement condemning the remarks attributed to Fadahunsi as deliberate and solely aimed at inciting a bloody poll in Osun State, calling on Nigerian authorities to hold him accountable. Osun State House of Assembly Speaker Adewale Egbedung said his legal team had formally petitioned the Inspector General of the Police over alleged death threats from both Fadahunsi and APC federal constituency candidate Francis Enyade, meaning Fadahunsi is not the only figure named in these complaints. Adeleke campaign spokesperson Pelumi Olajengbesi, through his lawyer, separately issued Fadahunsi a 24-hour ultimatum over unrelated remarks made on Viable TV on July 2 and Channels Television on August 11, in which Fadahunsi allegedly linked Olajengbesi to cult groups. This is a distinct defamation matter, threatening a 10 billion naira lawsuit, and should not be confused with the Kill Accord video controversy itself. Reports describe roughly 15,000 police personnel deployed across Osun State ahead of Saturday's vote, a figure that itself has drawn mixed reactions, with some civil society voices warning what one report called militarization of the process, while state officials frame it as necessary protection. The Nigerian Bar Association deployed its National Election Observers Team, led by Festus Okoye, chairman of the NBA's Election Working Group, arriving in Osun via Akure on Friday. The NBA's stated purpose is promoting credible elections, respect for the rule of law, and adherence to established electoral processes. It called on electoral officials, security agencies, political actors, and public office holders to remain neutral. Note, this script does not have direct confirmation of a formal NBA statement specifically addressing the Fadahunsi controversy by name. Its public activity so far centers on observer deployment and a general call for neutrality, not a specific ruling on this incident.
Beyond its statement on Fadahunsi specifically, Amnesty International said it had received reports of violence, arrests of Osun government officials, and alleged plans to influence the elections, a broader concern about the overall electoral environment, not limited to one senator's remarks. Human rights organizations weighing in this close to an election reflects a genuine escalating concern about voter safety, but it's also worth noting plainly that these are calls for accountability and investigation, not findings of guilt. No court or independent judicial body had, as of this recording, ruled on the substance of the allegations against Fadahunsi or anyone else named in this story. A court order added the SDP candidate to the Osun governorship ballot, bringing the total number of contesting parties to 15. As a direct result, INEC is reproducing the ballot papers and the result sheets to reflect that addition. INEC stated the reproduced ballot papers were arriving in the state on Thursday, August 13, and would be moved the same day to local government area offices across the state, in line with its standard distribution procedure. INEC publicly reaffirmed its commitment to conducting a free, fair, and credible election. To be clear, This is a court-ordered correction to include a legally added candidate, not an allegation of rigging, and nothing in available reporting suggests otherwise. It is, however, a genuinely late-stage logistical scramble, 2 days before voting, that election observers will be watching closely for any knock-on delays. Stepping back from the day-to-day accusations, an Adeleke victory would mean the Accord Party, a relatively new platform for him after his exit from PDP, successfully defends the governorship against a national ruling party actively contesting it. An APC victory would hand Tinubu's party a symbolically significant reversal of its 2022 loss in a state its own campaign figures have explicitly tied to 2027 positioning. Beyond the immediate result, Osun is functioning as an early test case for how Nigeria's Electoral Act 2026 and the institutions meant to enforce it, from INEC to NHRC to the NBA's observation apparatus, actually perform under real live pressure. That's a genuinely significant subplot, regardless of which candidate wins Saturday.
Dozens of documented violent incidents, whichever figure you use. A senator publicly accused of incitement with 2 meaningfully different translations of what he actually said still unresolved. Competing unverified allegations of political detention. A frozen and then unfrozen state account. A last-minute ballot reprint. Heavy security deployment that is itself controversial. INEC has publicly committed to and is actively executing its distribution timeline despite the court-ordered change. The NBA has deployed independent national observers. Amnesty International, NHRC, and CISLAC are all applying public pressure for accountability before, not after, any violence occurs. Fadahunsi was questioned and released rather than the situation escalating into a standoff. The evidence shows serious risk and genuine concern. That is not the same thing as saying violence is inevitable on Saturday. What happens now depends heavily on how security agencies, INEC, and the political class themselves conduct the next 48 hours. Watch the actual security presence and conduct at polling units, not just the announced numbers. Watch whether the reproduced ballot papers and result sheets actually reach all local government areas on schedule. Watch accreditation, voting, and counting at the polling unit level. That's historically where Nigerian election disputes concentrate. Watch collation. Watch official INEC announcements specifically, rather than premature claims from any campaign. And watch statements from accredited observers, the NBA team among them, rather than unverified WhatsApp forwards or social media claims, particularly in the hours immediately after voting closes. Osun is now more than a contest for the government house. It is a test of whether political competition can happen without turning an election into a battlefield. The violent incidents reported here, whether the figure is 44, 73, or somewhere the parties themselves dispute, are a genuine warning, but they do not have to become the story of August 15. What INEC, security agencies, and the political class actually do in the next 48 hours will decide that, not what's already happened. So what do you think? Can Osun have a peaceful and credible election on Saturday, or has the political tension already gone too far? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you want the facts behind Nigeria's biggest political stories, subscribe to the Policy Pulse HQ. Like this video, share it, and stay with us for the latest Osun election developments.